Darth Vader had no one to blame for his fall except for himself and Emperor Palpatine. But don't tell that to Vader. No, to Vader, his fall from grace is due to the Jedi, due to Padme, due to Obi-Wan, really anyone but himself. His wife and his best friend betrayed him, and today I want to go through a passage of the book, Dark Lord: The Rise of Darth Vader, where Vader is alone in his quarters on his Star Destroyer. He just killed the first Jedi since being put in his suit, but it was extremely difficult as he was adjusting to this horrible suit. Vader was struck in the forearm during the battle by some random Jedi Knight, far more damage than he suffered in the temple while taking on hundreds of Jedi. And today I want to take you through Vader's mind as he thinks about Padme, Obi-Wan, the Council, Sidious, blames them all for losing his power. The reason he almost lost to this Jedi was because of them, not because of his own actions. So that's what we're going to get into. It's an interesting point to see Vader's perspective of all this, so let's get into it from the rise of Dark Lord, the rise of Darth Vader. It's interesting. Hope you enjoy. Please leave a like, subscribe, and let's read. Vader's own lightsaber rested within reach, but the longer he gazed at it, and at the blackened furrow in the alloy, the more disheartened he became. Had the hand been flesh and blood, it would be shaking right now. Only Dooku, Asajj Ventress, and Obi-Wan had been good enough with a blade to injure him. So how had an undistinguished Jedi Knight been able to do so? With the loss of my limbs, have I also lost strength in the Force? Vader thought to himself. But no. Vader recognized this voice, the voice of the one who posed the question, as the specter of Anakin Skywalker. Anakin telling him that he was not as powerful as he originally thought he was. The little slave boy, cowering because he was not the master of his fate. A mere accessory in the world, owned by another, passed over, and now newly enslaved. He lifted his masked face to the cabin ceiling and growled in torment. Sidious's inept medroids had done this to him, slowed his reflexes, burdened him with armor and padding. He relished having destroyed them. Or had Sidious deliberately engineered this prison? Again, it was Anakin who asked, that small note of fear in Vader's heart. Was this punishment for having failed at Mustafar? Or had Mustafar merely provided Sidious with an excuse to weaken him? Perhaps all along, the promise of apprenticeship had been nothing more than a ploy, when, in fact, Sidious merely needed someone to command his army of stormtroopers. Another Grievous, while Sidious reaped the real rewards of power, confident that his newest minion posed no threat to his rule. Vader dwelled on it, fearing he would drive himself mad, and at last reached an even more disheartening conclusion. Grievous was duped into serving the Sith, but Sidious had sent Anakin to Mustafar for one reason only: to kill the members of the Separatist Council. Padme and Obi-Wan were the ones who had sentenced him to his black suit prison, sentenced by his wife and his alleged best friend, their love for him warped by what they had perceived as betrayal. Obi-Wan, too brainwashed by the Jedi to recognize the power of the dark side, and Padme, too enslaved to the Republic to understand that Palpatine's machinations and Anakin's defection to the Sith had been essential to bringing peace to the galaxy, essential to placing power in the hands of those resourceful enough to use it properly in order to save the galaxy's myriad species from themselves, to end the incompetence of the Senate, to dissolve the bloated, entitled Jedi Order, whose masters were blind to the decay they had fostered, and yet their chosen one had seen it. So why hadn't they followed his lead by embracing the dark side? Because they were too set in their ways, too inflexible to adapt. Vader mused. Anakin Skywalker had died on Coruscant, but the chosen one had died on Mustafar. Blistering rage, as seething as Mustafar's lava flows, welled up in him, liquefying self-pity. This was what he saw behind the mask's visual enhancers. Bubbling lava, red heat, scorched flesh. He had only wanted to save them, Padme from death, Obi-Wan from ignorance, and in the end, they had failed to recognize his power, to simply accede to him, to accept on faith that he knew what was best for them, for everyone. Instead, Padme was dead, and Obi-Wan was running for his life, as stripped of everything as Vader was, without friends, family, without purpose. Clenching his right hand, he cursed the Force. What had it ever provided him but pain, torturing him with foresight, with visions he was unable to prevent, leading him to believe that he had great power, when he was little more than its servant. But no longer, Vader promised himself. The power of the dark side would render the Force subservient, minion rather than ally. Extending his right arm, Vader took hold of the lightsaber and turned it in his hand. Just 3 standard weeks old, assembled as Sidious had wished in the shadow of the moonlit-sized terror weapon he was having constructed, it had now tasted first blood. Sidious had provided the synthocrystal responsible for the Crimson Blade, along with his own lightsaber, to serve as a model. Vader, though, had no fondness for antiques, and while he could appreciate the handiwork that had gone into fashioning the inlaid, gently curved handle of Sidious's lightsaber, he preferred a weapon with more ballast. Determined to please his master, Vader had tried to create something novel, but had ended up fashioning a black version of the lightsaber he had wielded for more than a decade, with a thick, ridged hand grip, high output, power cell, dual-phase focusing crystal, and a forward-mounted adjustment knob down to the beveled emitter shroud. The hilt mimicked Anakin's. But there was a problem. His new hands were far too large to duplicate the loose grip Anakin had favored, right hand wrapped not on the grip, but around the crystal housing cylinder, close to the blade itself. Vader's hands required that the grip be thicker and longer, and the result was an inelegant weapon, verging on ungainly. Another cause of the injury to his left arm. The Sith grew past the use of lightsabers, Sidious had told him, but we continue to use them, if only to humiliate the Jedi. Vader yearned for the time when memories of Anakin would fade, like light observed by a black hole. Until that happened, his life-sustaining suit would be an ill fit, even if it was well suited to the darkness in his invulnerable heart. So that's today's story, how Vader felt after getting cut in the forearm by a Jedi, how Vader felt about losing his power, how Vader felt about Padme, Obi-Wan, the Jedi, not just listening to him, not knowing that what Anakin wanted was best. Of course, Anakin is extremely arrogant, thinking if everyone would have just listened to him, the galaxy would be a better place. If Obi-Wan and the Jedi Council would have embraced the dark side like he had, he would have won. He should have won. But Padme and Obi-Wan were blind. Obi-Wan to the Jedi, too rigid, and Padme to the Republic. What'd you think of today's video? Please let me know. And if you want the prequel, the before to this video where Vader actually killed the Jedi but got injured, it was the previous upload to this one. So check it out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.